Hey, I've never really shared any Christian content before, but I had four visions in a row in four consecutive nights, and I really felt the need to share them. I've had like about 40 to 50 visions overall in the last 2.5 years, but these four were different. I've had Rapture Visions before, but all four of these visions were very strong. I woke up during the middle of the night. I felt the visions coming on. I was awake, but my eyes were closed. And then I saw in two of these visions it was um, a light blue sky, like a summer's afternoon, as blue as that, with my eyes closed, and people going up into the sky. A third one started off at the bottom of it was like a 40 to 50 foot cross. It was massive, and it started like at the bottom of it was in black and white, and it sort of panned up. It was like a slow moving black and white movie, sort of, and it panned up the cross, moved up, and whenever it got to the top part of the cross just started turning to blue, and the sky above the cross, so there was just a big blue sky appeared, and there's someone to the right hand side of this cross, and the cross took up like most of my field of vision, and to the right hand side of it, someone just went up into the air, up into the sky, just one person, which is kind of weird. But there was one other one as well, but it was pretty similar, except the sky went from blue to like a really purple color, and stayed like that for about 10 to 15 seconds. But this is, I've had like a lot of these visions to say. I felt the real need to share these, and I don't like organized religion. I went to a church for a while, but I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't mind that people were lovely and things like that, but I don't really enjoy organized religion at all. Um, I got, I felt the real need to share this, so what I did was I got my friend to um, give me the phone number of a guy I'd met at the church. It was one of the elders, and he was a lovely guy. He came round to talk to me for about 3.5 hours about it, and he'd said he had a couple of visions himself and dreams, and he asked me to take a notepad and write down a description of these visions, date them, and bring them to the pastor. The way they normally did that in the church was to put it through the pastor. I was like, okay, no problem. I was a new pastor. It started since I had last been, so I said to him I'd go that Sunday. And that night I had another vision after he left, and it was completely different to any of the ones I had before. It was a vision. It started off inside our house. It was inside our living room, and it was black and white. I could actually see. It was hard to tell. I instinctively knew it was our house, but I could see the couch and I could see the wall behind the couch. Um, just that was about it. And next minute, the room started filling up with light. It just started a small amount and built up to the point where I could just see nothing but light, which is really weird. Whenever you've got your eyes closed and you're awake, and the whole room filled with light. It was really surreal. Um, the scene then changed to being outside of the house. Like this house on the screen, it was sitting at this angle. It was like a cottage sort of style, which doesn't look like our house, but it had some of the features of our house. And I also knew it was ours, even though it didn't look anything like it. It was just weird as anything. It was without these. It wasn't as fancy as this. And what happened was it appeared for about 7 8 seconds, and it was just. But I was looking down at it from like a higher viewpoint. And next minute, light started coming out of the windows in the front door, and they started bursting out, but it was just like exploding out of it, until the point where it started coming out of the walls, started coming out of the roof, everything, until the whole thing turned to bright light again. And it was really different than anything I'd seen before. Um, well, about a couple of hours later, I went back to sleep after that, and a couple of hours later, I woke up to that bright light again, and I felt really different. It was weird. I felt really happy, and I like loved it. It was all surreal again. And I've never really had that sort of feeling before. I'm not really that sort of person. Um, for a couple of hours, I couldn't sleep. I was just very happy and content, and yeah, it was weird. So I wrote this down and brought it to the church on the Sunday, and they do the usual, hymns, prayers, some more hymns, then into a teaching. And in this church, they have two projectors. One that projects onto the wall in front of us, one projects onto the wall to the left hand side of us. They always use it for the lyrics for the hymns, and whenever they're doing teachings, they'll sometimes put up stuff. Well, usually put up stuff. And in this day, the pastor that I went to see wasn't there. It was a woman covering for him, and the woman who had took the teaching was doing a teaching on Zacchaeus, the tax collector, and about the presence of Jesus, in the house, and him asking, telling Zacchaeus he was going to stay in his house, and on the wall was this exact same house that I saw in the vision, at the same angle, this 45-degree angle to the left, same house, same angle. Apart from the fact that I saw it from higher up in the vision, I didn't see it from the same. As low down, it was more sort of from up the top here, above, looking more diagonal towards it, which scared the life out of me. It actually took me by surprise. Didn't think of really when I saw it. I was like, okay, and then it caught on, and I sort of more shocked than anything. So I'm sitting there in the church, and I have a notepad beside me with full description of this house that's on the wall of the church. I was like, okay, this is going to be a bit weird, I'm going to say to the guy. So after the service ended, I went up to Jeff and brought the thing up to him, said to him, like, that night I talked to you that I had another vision. So I showed him the notepad, and he nearly fell off the pew. And it was kind of unreal, because normally with Christians, I don't really, they're very sort of tend to look down upon people, and I'm not really one for sort of socializing with Christians, or they put me off Christianity when I was a kid, and they actually turned me away from the church very quickly. So, but the reaction I got from this guy was so good, and he was just like, "Yeah, I think you've really got something here," and it was fantastic the way he reacted. He said, "Right, well, come on in." They always have the service, and then they have like a tea and coffee thing in the hall, and we normally don't really go the odd time, when we went. And we went in, and he came back to me, and he said, definitely, I think you've got something here. Look, if you want to get confirmation of this, there's a more spiritual service on at 6 o'clock tonight. And if you're going to get confirmation of it, it will be from, there's a guy coming to talk. He's from outside of the church, but he's the pastor's friend. He's a very spiritual Christian, and all this kind of stuff. But it's nothing that I'd ever be into, or, have an interest in, or even know about it. He's just saying about getting confirmation of this, and I was like, oh, okay, not something I've ever really heard of before. So I was like, yeah, well, after that happening and seeing the same thing I'd seen in the vision, I was like, well, you're not going to say no, you're going to go. It's like, yes, definitely. So me and my wife, we went that night. There's about 35 to 40 people in this small service. And it was just, they were drinking tea and coffee again, and talking. And then the guy who was coming to chat, he was just standing about with one of the other elders. So this guy, he's supposed to be doing his talk about how he came to Christ, and a lot of other things. And he came up to me and my wife. Were sitting beside. There was an elderly couple we knew, lovely couple. We talked to quite a lot. The kid lived in our area. And we sat beside them. He came over to us, and we were just sitting there with everyone else. And he said, "Excuse me, can I ask you what your names are?" And we were just said hello to him. I didn't really think anything at the time. Just stood up, shook his hand, and he went over. But he lifted the microphone, and the first thing he said was, "Before I start, I just want to say that I have a real feeling of the presence of the Lord with these two people." And it really took me by surprise. Like, I'm a 20-stone guy with like a balding, shaved head and a big beard. You know what I mean? I'm not, and I'm sitting there in jeans and a sort of jumper. I'm not really like someone who looks like the presence of God was with him for for a first impression. And I'm just sitting there, the skinhead and the beard. And the guy sits down over this, and I was like, well, that's okay. This is weird, because it's not something I was expecting in the slightest. Just from what was being said before. by the other guy. That he started talking, but he was speaking for about 30 seconds, and I was sort of still shocked. And I didn't really listen to what he said. But one of the things he said was, you're going to make a great difference to your friends in the future. You're going to make a really big difference to your friends in the future. And the only thing I've been doing this last 2.5 years or thinking about is trying to get friends, a lot of my close friends, family, who are atheists, to turn to Christ and realize that the truth of Jesus, and it's the only thing that's worthwhile in this life, in my opinion. There's nothing else even worth bothering about. Everything else is going to pass away. You just don't want your friends to go with it. So that really got me. I was like, that's all I've been trying to do this next few while. Later on, there's a couple of things happened, and the other elder was talking to me, and he actually said to me when I brought up about the visions to him, showed him some of the stuff. He said, "Are you sure you didn't make it up in your own head?" At that point, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not bothered going back to the church. I'm happy enough. Like, I got my confirmation, whatever, and maybe sometime if Jeff wants me to get in contact with the other guy, the other elder, once I'll get back." But they never got back. So, but I've been feeling a real urge to share this. It's something that I thought was amazing, but it's not something that not something I really normally share. So thanks anyway.